What is going on, Colts Nation? And welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guy, Cody, here. Joining me, as always, friend of the show, Mr. Lawrence Owen, Colts Law himself. Lawrence, first off, welcome back to the real world. I know you were just getting over COVID and stuff. Glad to have you back, and what a great episode to have you back. Kind of talking about the Colts, man, and how they've really been on a tear the last many weeks. They've been really, really hot the last couple weeks. First off, how are you feeling, and what are your overall impressions on the Colts so far?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm doing much better. It was rough. It was very rough couple weeks. But starting last week, started the recovery process. Took me about a week and a half in order to get all the way feeling as good as I am now and being able to do a lot of these just talks, podcasts. You got to continue talking all the time. And when your chest is all messed up, it's difficult to do that. But man, we were talking before we started recording here, and yeah, I was with everybody else, kind of in a way. When we started off 0-3, it's difficult. You look at that, and you go, man, this is bad. But a lot of close losses that gave us hope. No loss is good, but you could come away from a loss and go, okay, we can compete. Like when we fought the Rams, okay, we can compete with the best. The Ravens, yeah, we can compete with the best, the Titans, same way. So the way I looked at it, I was just like, just keep staying the course, get healthier, let the players get to know one another, because there's a lot of new players that haven't really had a lot of chance to get to know each other and get to understand each other. And now we're starting to see the fruition of that come about. And, they're 6-2 their last 8 weeks. So that's a really good record to be sitting on right now. They can't sit on their laurels though, because they got some really tough games ahead of them.
Yeah, and you were even saying off air, like, they have to keep winning. They have to control their own destiny now. And the good thing is for the Colts, at least, you mentioned that they're healthy. To start the year, there were so many stinking injuries, with whether it was the Wentz injury, the Nelson injury, even losing guys like, Julian Blackmon, Corey Willis. It just seemed like the hits never stopped. Losing Tyquan Lewis, just all these guys that just all of a sudden we're just getting these weird injuries, these freak things. Losing Paris Campbell, it's just like the hits never stopped for a while. But now you're right. The Colts have finally started to get healthy, right? They started now for the third straight game, have their whole entire offensive line starters playing, which is big. And yeah, it speaks for itself. 6 out of the last 8 you mentioned. Colts sitting right there at 6-5. They're not right now, at least not in the playoff picture, but they are right there with a lot of different teams. I actually have the playoff picture pulled up right now. The Colts currently sit at number 9, right behind the Pittsburgh Steelers, who lost last night to the Chargers. And that thriller of a game, I don't know if you watched that. That was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Back and forth type of game. But the Colts right now sit there. There's a few teams on their heels. Cleveland 6-5, almost lost to Detroit, which is crazy. There's Vegas who lost. There's Denver who's 5-5. But then you look, ahead of the Colts right now. I mentioned Pittsburgh 5-4-1. You do wonder if it was a loss instead of a tie, maybe the Colts are the 8th seed right now. But then you have Buffalo, who the Colts just obviously dismantled in Buffalo. The Bills the last couple of weeks have, I don't know what's going on in Buffalo, but they have not been Buffalo of last year. We'll just say that. And then you have teams like the Chargers 6-4, Cincinnati at 6-4. And then you got your top 4, So really, when thinking about the Colts' chances at a playoff wild card berth, the Colts are not too far back from potentially being the number 5 seed right now.
Oh, absolutely. And you also got to go look at some of the losses that some of these teams have had. Buffalo lost to Jacksonville. The Titans have lost now not only to the Jets, but to the Texans, right?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah. 2 teams that the Colts utterly obliterated, right? And then the Texans lose to both of those teams. So it makes you scratch your head and wonder, you don't know what's going to happen, because the AFC is just crazy right now. It seems like every week someone is getting upset.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, though. It's wild, man. Like, every single team, I feel like, Well, not every single team, but a lot of really good teams have lost to teams. You're like, how in the world did they just lose to that team? It's been so wild. And especially last year, how good the AFC was. The fact that the Colts had to win 11 games and still almost miss the playoffs. I mean, it's completely different this year. There's a lot of teams that are floating around 500 right now that still could potentially make the playoffs. So, yeah, I think the Colts have a really legitimate chance here, and if they take care of business. Now, you mentioned the road's not going to get easy for them. They have Tampa Bay this coming Sunday. They play the Patriots. They play the Cardinals. They have to go to Jacksonville where they've notoriously struggled. So,
and the Raiders.
As it stands right now, man, I mean, the Colts can control their own destiny, but it's not going to be easy. They're going to have to go in and beat some really good football teams like they did yesterday against Buffalo. What do you think the Colts are going to have to do? Let's stay just starting this Sunday. What are the Colts going to have to do in order to steal some of these games that maybe they're not necessarily favored in?
Don't look at their record versus Tom Brady. All right. Especially this weekend. All right. Just walk in and go, it's Tom freaking Brady. Let's just beat him. All right. That's all you got to do. You go worry about establishing yourself. Don't worry about taking what the defense gives you. Buffalo loaded the box so much against the Colts and had no answer, even with loaded box against Jonathan Taylor. Try that out again. Do what is working and keep your foot on the gas. We also saw, Matt Eberflus yesterday. I was so happy. I don't know if you saw my tweet about, if the Colts by some weird chance jump out to a 3-score lead against Buffalo and Eberflus drops into a soft zone in the second half, I'm going to go crazy, right? And he didn't. He waited until they were 5 scores ahead of them. And at that point, you could almost just go ahead and put all of your backups in there. The game was over, before he started doing that. So continue on, keep the foot on the gas. Don't let good teams have a shot at coming back, And there's a lot of teams out there that we're going to be playing against that have that ability. So, they got to play their game and keep it going, because Tampa Bay, they could put points up in bunches. Arizona could put points up in bunches. We all know what it's like to play against Bill Belichick, right? So just play your game and don't, keep that closing mentality, right? That foot on the gas,
Yeah, man. I mean, the defense, credit them the last 2 weeks. I know the first one was against Jacksonville, but the defense has figured out a way to close games now, which is kind of dangerous for teams. A lot of people have said, man, the Colts are a team that if they get into the postseason, nobody wants to see them because they're dangerous on defense now. They now have the league leading turnovers. Buffalo and them are 1 and 2. They obviously got a lot of turnovers on Buffalo, and the Colts didn't turn the ball over, so they took over in that department. But, yeah, you talked about playing their game, man. It's got to start up front with Jonathan Taylor. I mean, what can you say about the guy, man? 5 touchdowns, breaking franchise records already, and the dude is so humble about it. I mean, I remember somebody asked him a question in the his post-game press conference. They're like, are you the Colts offense? And he said, absolutely not. He's like, it's every guy, right? That was kind of a baity question, But I love how Jonathan Taylor just continues to – he almost is like a puppy, where he's not aware that he's doing it, but you love it because he's just like awesome. So, yeah, I think that's what the Colts got to do, man. They got to continue to establish the run. Starting with Tampa Bay, Vita Vea might be out of this game. So Tampa Bay always has had it feel like the last couple of years a really good run defense. But we have seen Jonathan Taylor multiple weeks now take down top run defenses. I mean, you talked about the Jets game. I'm curious. I haven't checked yet. I wonder how far the Bills fell down in terms of run defense.
They dropped the run defense 6 spots.
Okay, so where were they to start?
Third.
I actually didn't check. They were third. Okay, wow.
They dropped in the 9th. Yeah.
That is wild. It's not quite as dramatic, but still, you see, like, the Colts had I wonder how many games the Colts have had over 200 yards rushing this year. It's actually wild how much they've done that. But
And
yeah, I think, they got to continue what they've done. Or were you going to say something?
yeah,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. When Jonathan Taylor was asked about if he was the Colts offense, and he said no, there's 11 other guys, he was dead on right about that. As good as Jonathan Taylor is, the blocking that has been out there for him, not just by the offensive line, but the tight ends and the wide receivers as well, have made life so much easier for him. You go out there and you watch the tape against the Buffalo Bills, and it was a blocking clinic. It's teaching tape. You could take that whole game and send it down to colleges and be like, all right, this is how you block, right? is absolutely gorgeous. And credit to all those guys, because as good as a running back is, you need blocking in order to continue being as good as you are. Jonathan Taylor just is able to take that blocking to the next level and end up getting stupid averages for the year. 5.8 yards a carry on the year, and doing what he's doing. He's on pace for 1,900 yards rushing, over 2,200 yards scrimmage yards, and 23 touchdowns this year. And
that's like Wisconsin numbers all over
right.
again, man. When I saw his numbers coming out of college, I remember I actually, after that game yesterday, I went back and I listened to kind of our thoughts initially when the Colts drafted him. And I remember we were all like, what, a running back? What, why? But then I remember saying in that, video, I was basically like, but then I looked at his numbers and I looked at the tape and I was like on board 100%. And this dude has proved it time and time again. One thing that I think is interesting that Taylor has done, I know we cannot talk about some other things that the Colts can do here. He's really improved as a pass catcher as well. I know the Colts running back coach Montgomery has talked about that, how the Colts really wanted to get him more involved in the passing game, because at Wisconsin they didn't really ask him to do that a whole lot, right? Because he had 2,000 yards on the ground, right? Like he didn't need to necessarily. But Jonathan Taylor's a really good receiving back too. You saw what he did yesterday against Buffalo with that catch. He catches it, still has 10 yards to go, and he just powers his way into the end zone, man. He just does Jonathan Taylor stuff. So, he overall, I don't know if you agree with this or not. I think right now, as far as the most well-rounded back, he's certainly up there, if not the best in the NFL right now.
I think that him, Christian McCaffrey, and Alvin Kamara. But I'll put the reason I'm going to put him above the other two is availability, because that's the best ability, right? And he has yet to be, I don't want to say it. We all know what I'm thinking, but Kamara and CMC, they just have a problem staying on the field, and Jonathan Taylor has yet to have that problem. So I got to put him above those other two guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's totally fair as well. We're talking about the Colts staying with their identity. Also, they haven't turned the ball over in 3 games. They have been really, really good. Carson Wentz and company have been really, really good at not turning the ball over and forcing turnovers. That's why they're by far the best team in terms of turnover margin. They continue to do that. They continue to protect the football. For the most part, the offensive line has done their job in terms of protecting Carson Wentz. They've had a few leaks at times, but I feel like they've been getting better outside of the Jacksonville game. They've been getting better at protecting Carson Wentz. And even like yesterday against Buffalo, the numbers didn't look necessarily pretty on the outside, but we know that statistics can be very misleading a lot of times. I felt like they definitely were. Frank Reich said Carson Wentz had an A+ game. That's what he said. He said he had 4 throwaways that were excellent, So he didn't put the ball in harm's way. He did what he had to do. Only had 106 yards, had a touchdown. Carson Wentz didn't need to really do anything in terms of the passing game, especially because you think the weather and also just the fact that Jonathan Taylor's going for $185. You don't need to do that when you're controlling the line of scrimmage like you are. But it's interesting, Lawrence, because there's still people that want to try to discredit Carson Wentz for yesterday's performance, because a lot of people, for whatever reason, they live and die by statistics. I love statistics as much as the next guy. I don't know, man. That just seems really silly to me to die on that kind of hill.
It is. You got to have the eye test, right? Yes, he was like 50% throwing the football and only had 100 yards, but come on, no turnovers. He was able on 3rd and 10 to magician his way out of what seemed to be a guaranteed sack and pick up 15 yards on the scramble and slid. What? I ain't seen that yet this year. That
Well,
was something new, right?
mhm.
But yeah, he's doing exactly what he's needed to do in that game. That it was just he was there to convert on 3rd and long. The Colts only threw the ball, had 20 pass attempts. They
Yep.
ran the ball 46 times. 46
Wow.
times against 20 passes. That is unreal numbers. And, Wentz, in my opinion, he's only got 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions this year. 3 and 18 touchdowns. That's good numbers. That's showing that he's protecting the football. And he's shown that if need be, he has the ability to go out there and put the team on his back. But it's not needed all the time because if the running game's going, why test it?
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's doing what he needs to do, on that critical 3rd down there in that first, I think it was the first quarter when it was 14-7, I think. Carson Wentz on that 3rd and long, he ducks, avoids the sack, scrambles. Like, those are the things you just can't teach. And I've said this multiple times this year, that is why you traded for Carson Wentz right there. I mean, let's be honest. If it's 90% of quarterbacks out there, if it's Phillip Rivers last year, that's a sack. And your drive stalled, and who knows how that game goes. But I think that was honestly, for me, probably the most underrated play of that game. The fact that Carson Wentz was able to do that and continue to move the chains, and the Colts were able to go down and punch it in then. And they just never they never took their foot off the gas, which is huge. We saw that even a couple weeks ago against the Jets. The Colts were dominating that game for 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but something switched and they could not finish. Fortunately, they were able to get a turnover and the game was ended. But the fact that the Colts allowed that to happen, I was not happy about it. I know a lot of fans weren't happy about it. Obviously, the coaching staff was not happy about it as well. But the Colts have been able to finish, and that's been their biggest, I think, Achilles heel. They've had 2 overtime games where they have not finished. They've lost both of their overtime games they've been in this year. And I mean, the fact that the Colts were able to finish yesterday, I think for their confidence moving forward as still a pretty young football team, that should go a long way, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Another thing that goes a long way is all these turnovers, they switch, they bring the juice to the offense. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts right now have 25 turnovers. You know how many turnovers they had all of last year? 26. All right.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they are actually. Remember, before the season, Darius Leonard was like, "Yeah, our goal is 40." They're on pace for 39.
Wow.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. So, that also helps the fact that the offense is not letting these turnovers go to waste. Right? They are the number 1 team in the NFL in scoring off of turnovers. So it's a big boost to both the defense and the offense. It fires everybody up, and it helps the young guys. It keeps them in a good mood, keeps them going up, because you don't want a bunch of young players down on themselves like the first 3 weeks. That's a terrible situation to put a young team in. Because that puts a lot of weight on the shoulders of the veterans to keep the rest of the team their head above water, keep their head up, and be like, look, we can punch through this.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And they finally played complementary football for all 4 quarters, which is something they haven't done all year. They haven't done this. Either the offense is on and the defense is not, or flip-flop last week. The defense is on, the offense isn't for whatever reason. So they finally were able to do that. And I think going forward into this stretch that's going to be very difficult, I mean, it's interesting. I told you off air, Lawrence, but I wanted to get this in because I think it's an interesting nugget. I was listening to Zach Kiefer and Stephen Holder's podcast, and Zach was saying he ran into Chris Ballard after the game against Buffalo, and Ballard really wasn't in a good mood. And he was like, what in the world? You guys just put that butt kicking on the Bills. Why are you feeling like that? Why are you acting like this? And Chris said, I am still thinking about those 2 overtime losses, how we could easily be an 8-win football team right now. We could easily be vying for the number 1 seed right now. And I think the thing is, like, with this team, yeah, the record maybe doesn't look fantastic right now, but we said it at the top of this, Lawrence, and I think we can continue to say this throughout the season. The Colts are as talented, I think, as any team in the NFL right now. They have the talent basically everywhere. They have the best player in football, in my opinion, right now, in Jonathan Taylor. And the fact that they're 6-5, it sucks because you feel like they should be a lot better, but there's still a lot of football to be played. And so the Colts, I think, yesterday really, people were like kind of iffy on if they were going to make the playoffs. I think they did themselves a huge service yesterday, not just for their playoff seeding, but just for confidence moving forward. This team can go down to the wire and they can finish against good teams, right? And they can dominate good teams. And I think moving forward, it's going to be a tough stretch, but this win certainly helps the Colts' confidence moving forward. And who knows, man, anything is possible in this league. The Colts could easily continue rattling off this winning streak. I think they've won 3 straight. They can continue with 4 on Sunday against Tampa Bay.
Well, if you ask any NFL coach, anyone that has coached in the NFL, and you say, when do you want to have your bad part of the season? When do you want to start peaking? They will tell you exactly what's happened to the Indianapolis Colts. You want the bad part of the season at the beginning of the year, and you want to start peaking around Thanksgiving. Well, guess what? That's exactly what the Colts are doing right now. There's not a team in the NFL that wants to play the Indianapolis Colts because they are here at that level at this current period in time. So, as long as they can continue that and keep playing at the level that they're playing at, stay healthy. That's a big part. It's a good thing that I was really upset when the schedule dropped, and I was like, a week 14 bye, that's awful. Well, you know what? The Colts have persevered through it, and when that comes on, that'll just help them get even healthier walking into the Patriots game week 15. So just keep going the way they're going and stay at that high level, and everything is in their own court.
Absolutely. And the good thing is they also get Tampa Bay on a short week as well, because Tampa Bay is obviously playing Monday Night Football, so they're going to get them maybe a little bit beaten up, maybe a little bit not fully recovered, so that could go in the Colts' favor as well. Very winnable, Lawrence, in the next couple of weeks for the Colts. We'll see if they can actually do it. But I appreciate you coming on, man. It's always a fun conversation talking about things. More so when the Colts are actually doing well. It's a lot more fun for us to talk about that.
Oh,
but regardless, man, I appreciate you coming on. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, always a pleasure for me to come on. I appreciate you having me on here, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. And thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for helping us get to 9K subscribers yesterday. Absolutely wild. I can't believe it myself still, but really appreciate everybody's support. Lawrence, we're going to have to get you. You're going to get there one day, man. I just know it. I really believe it because you put out, quality work every single day, multiple times a week. So, man, if we can help you out, if anybody's listening to this video, go subscribe to Lawrence because he is a good friend and he does a lot of good work over there on his channel as well. I'll put the link in the description as well so people can find you, Lawrence. But thanks for coming on, and thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.
Go Colts.